And they okay, I'm by myself. Okay, I have to do it. And that's right. Okay, all right. Welcome, people, to the Day and Night Conversations podcast. I will be your host, Burgundy Nancy, today, whenever you're listening to us. People of Montreal and beyond, mesdames, messieurs, everybody. So today we have a great, exciting podcast for you guys. Yes, yay!
Yay!
I'm with my guests AC and Andrew. They're two super talented comedians who created their own unique show revolving around anime and manga. So we're gonna be talking about that. What's manga? What's anime? What's comedy? What's Andrew? What's AC? we're gonna be delving into that
Big
today.
questions.
Yes, very big questions today on Day and Night podcast. All right. So yeah. First of all, hi AC.
Hello.
Hi Andrew.
Hello. Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. Thank you for coming over.
Our pleasure.
So let's get right into it. What is anime and what is manga? For you guys, what does it represent for the audience that doesn't know what it is? Because that's your comedy event is centered around that.
Right.
I guess I could take this one.
Yeah, go for it.
So, simply put, anime is basically just Japanese animation, cartoons. Okay, well, if I say cartoons, it's kind of like a trigger word for real hardcore anime fans. But essentially, it's just animation that's made from Japanese studios, and it's like there's a wide range of audiences that could be reached from it. It can target children, but there's also a lot of risque stuff that we can get into a bit later.
Yeah. Look at his shirt. Hentai. We'll talk about it after, but yeah.
So there's really something for everything, for everybody in anime, and that's something that really attracted me to it from a very young age.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
sorry. Well, to be a little bit more, I have a history background, so be a little bit more specific of what anime is and why people freak out over the word cartoon, because essentially it is a cartoon, but the reason why it deviates is because Japanese pop culture was so different for animation than the West. So at the time of the cartoons for our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, they were having things like the Flintstones, very family-oriented, kid, like that kind of stuff for cartoons. Whereas in Japan, they were having very risque things, themes, murder. They were able to portray a wide range of variety. So although now the West cartoons are a little bit better.
Like Adult Swim has caught up a bit.
Yeah.
Rick and Morty, that type of stuff. Yeah.
They're starting to get into a more adult audience, and I think Japanese anime started that trend.
Yeah, that's why people get offended saying it's not cartoons, it's anime.
Okay.
But we're getting closer and closer where the lines almost blurred at this point. But there are still tropes and concepts in anime that you will only find in anime.
And also, well, manga, the difference between anime and manga's...
So manga are basically comic books.
Okay.
Right,
but
the other way around.
Yeah, and I mean sometimes anime are based on manga. The two go hand in hand essentially, but the manga is a written form.
Okay, all right. Low key, I used to be really into anime and manga, and yeah, and like let's be honest. Personally, I think that mangas are cooler than comic books. Like they're bigger. You have more to read, and also you read it the wrong side, so it's kind of cool. So, anyways, but how did you get into the world of manga and anime? Like because we're Westerners and we live in Canada, so it's a foreign thing. So how come do you think it got so much popularity here?
Well,
like. Yeah,
I got one. I could explain our origin story too.
Oh boy.
Yes. Tell us about you guys. Tell us how you got into anime and manga. Like your love and passion has led you to like do this awesome comedy show called Otaku Comedy. By the way.
So we'll have to like backtrack. Like how many years do we know each other? Like 10?
11.
11.
Actually,
Okay, he keeps them. He's the good one in the relationship.
You guys are so cute.
You should see us shirtless. No. So when we first met each other, I was getting into anime at that point. There was a few animes playing on late night television. You mentioned Adult Swim. I think it was a Cartoon Network at the time.
Yeah. Late night Cartoon Network. Yeah.
So they were playing things like Gundam, Bleach, Naruto starting as well, other late night stuff. And the series that got to me at the time, one of the series was Death Note.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out to all Death Note fans.
Yes.
And then we had met. We worked at a summer camp together, and he was like trying to get on board this anime thing. I recommended Death Note with another friend of ours, and then then we kind of both did this thing. Him, I think more than I did, where he just binged nonstop, anime, manga, you name it, and then. So in other words, a big crutch of our friendship was based off anime and manga.
Yeah, so funny he mentions that. So Andrew was the person who first introduced me to the Otakuthon, which is the big, like, it's one of the biggest anime conventions in Canada, and it's going to be happening in a month.
Yeah, in August.
In August, yeah.
Exactly a month actually.
So when we first met, Andrew told me about anime and like Death Note, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's this great convention that's happening soon. We should go check it out."
It was our first time ever going there. And we're kind of the real OGs of the Otakuthon because we went in 2008.
Yeah, we were there before they had the 9,000 audience target, a target. So like I remember the year after they had first broken that record, and they were like, "Yes, we did it! Over 9,000 people showed up." Like that was a thing. Now I think last year there were like 25,000 people or something.
I thought it was more actually.
It's growing in popularity, really. Oh.
Yeah, it actually upsets me that Comic-Con has more people, just because like Otakuthon is like, for me, an objectively better convention.
Well, to each their own, right? That's how it is. I see.
I read comic books, I read manga, and just the atmosphere.
I guess maybe comic books have more history. They have more like, generations. There's more history in comic books than manga and anime. It just started, maybe like the popular ones. I don't know.
Not really. It's just here, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's roughly the same.
Oh, okay.
Because like Batman came out in 38, Superman in 39, or vice versa. So that's pretty much the boom of the comic book industry.
Okay.
I took a course. I took it as an elective when I was doing one of my bachelor's degrees, and it was on Japanese animation.
There's a course. Wow.
Yeah, it was an anime class, so I had to take it.
Okay.
And I found out so I learned that manga actually originated like over 100 years ago. They sold like these little tablets, kind of like on little booths on the street.
You can't really call it a manga though.
But
it's like a similar class.
It's the precursor. It's a precursor to manga, right? So I think manga started way before comic books in that regard. But comics started getting more popular. Although I think was Osamu Tezuka who invented the Astro Boy. Yeah, basically he started the whole anime, the whole manga thing, and then the comic book genres started adapting that. At least that's my understanding.
Comic book? Sorry, can you elaborate?
I mean, like comic books started following the trend of Astro Boy.
Western comic book?
Yeah, Western.
Actually,
comics,
no.
I think.
There's comic books that existed in the West a long time ago, even before Batman Superman. But I guess you could say the golden age was when Batman Superman Wonder Woman came out, and that was in the late 30s, early 40s, and they boosted in popularity because of the war. Because you would see like Captain America punching Hitler in the face, and it blew up there. And then Tezuka, the king of manga, or the god of manga, I forget.
Wow.
The king of
Is
manga.
it king of manga?
So we're getting a history class.
Yeah, sorry.
In manga
We're just nerds here.
and anime. They don't just read them; they know everything, the background of everything.
We're like weirdly hardcore.
Yes.
Sorry. In other words, one fed off the other, and throughout history.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that anime and manga have meshed well with other genres and industries, and I think that festivals, video games, cosplay, they all derive, a lot of success has derived from anime and mangas, and I think that is pretty creative and pretty cool how you've taken comedy, which is really popular, and manga and anime, and put them together in your show that is called Otaku Comedy. That is
the Otaku Comedy Show.
Otaku Comedy Show. By the way, our guest, it's August 16th and 17th at Palais des Congrès, and they also have a Facebook page to look it up, buy some tickets too. But could you tell us more about like how you became comedians and then you started doing the comedy show with like manga? How did that happen?
Yeah, we were sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
We were both comedians prior, and then we were thinking of starting our own show, and then we were thinking of what we could do. Where we figured, well, we wanted to do a niche show, so a show that that isn't in the city. And then when we realized we both like anime, we're like, okay, well, let's do an anime themed show, and that's where it started, and then it evolved and it changed. We changed location, and a whole bunch of things happened, and then eventually, I guess, marketing and this and that worked out well because the Otakuthon people had contacted us for last convention.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that they contacted you.
Yeah.
That's
Pretty
how
much.
bomb you guys were. Yeah, okay.
And yeah,
Nice.
they gave us a shot. They're like, you have an hour spot on Friday in a time where it's like supper time. We're like, no one's gonna be here. And it filled out, and they're like, yeah, it's great. And next convention, so August 16th, 17th, we're back. Friday we have a better slots in my opinion, and an hour and a half show, and that's our regular show, like 15 plus if you want to call it. And then on Saturday we have our late night show, or otherwise our hentai show, and that's personally way too much. I'm so excited for that one. It's kind of ridiculous. Like it's
Okay,
like
so,
the one I'm really
so
passionate
now
about.
we've kind of deciphered the history, the meaning, the popularity, the implications of manga and anime. What is hentai?
Hey, you want to take this one?
I mean, I see there's some tentacles on your shirt.
Yeah.
I know Japanese people are into some kinky shit, let's be honest. So could you elaborate? Give us some context, let's
Okay.
Okay.
So I guess I'll take this one.
Yeah.
So basically, hentai is just Japanese animated porn.
Okay.
To put it simply. But just like anime, there's so many different genres that it approaches. And believe it or not, you can actually watch this for the story.
It's the porn you watch for the plot.
Yeah.
As
You know
I
what?
like to say on stage.
So there are some series that you wouldn't believe it, but they actually have plots that are really interesting and worth investing time and energy into watching. At some point, I've seen a couple
This
series
become a
where
weird TED
It's
talk.
like, do you fast forward the sex scenes, or you're like, I want to know what's happening.
I'm not gonna lie, I've
no.
done that a couple of times. I'm just like, you know what? No,
He's
I don't
like,
care.
nah, dude, nah.
No, it's sort of like how can I say this? In regular porn, it's like, I'm the pizza boy. You want a pizza with extra sauce? It's
Yeah.
just like, okay, what is this plot? It's like it was so meaningless. Whereas hentai, personally, I feel that it's more plot driven, so that when the sex does happen, it's like more impactful for whatever reason. So if you're looking at vanilla hentai, vanilla being like boy loves girl, girl loves him back, childhood friends, that kind of thing.
That's vanilla.
That's vanilla.
Yeah.
So what else is there?
Oh, actually hentai could be very, very dark.
Very creative too, by the way. Just have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, and then the sad reality is hentai, I would say, is mostly rape based, unfortunately.
It's a problem within the within the category.
I can give you the historical reason for it, but I don't think anyone wants to hear that.
No, it's
but,
okay.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so it's like he said, it's a very wide genre. There's even doujins, which is like the manga version of hentai, and it's just a very big thing. There's weird tropes, and as comedians, we like to break that down and say, this is weird, this is funny, isn't this ridiculous?
Yeah.
I personally love to find ridiculous plots and just make fun of them. There's one show, it's called Oretama, or in English it's called My Balls. And so the plot is, so this guy's walking around one day, and accidentally a guy stops the apocalypse. Like the devil is about to go onto Earth and destroy everything, but he stops the apocalypse by transferring Satan into this random guy's balls.
Oh.
Specifically, I think it was his left testicle.
Yeah, it was one of his
Yeah,
testicles
so specifically like his left one. And so
that was like a twist later. that you found that out.
Yeah, right. That was a plot twist, by the way, because we didn't know which one it was at first.
Okay.
And, anyway, so it's basically like No Fap November, but on steroids.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
And if he
Ejaculates.
comes within a month, it's game over for the world. The apocalypse starts. World ends.
Yeah.
So he can't.
No.
You can. And then you have like sexy succubus demon girls who are like trying to get him to like have sex or come because like they want to revive their boss or something.
Oh my god.
And yeah, it's crazy. And then that's the left testicle thing. Also, spoiler alert.
They do have creativity because even like I do think, I don't know if there's cartoons like Western, like American.
They're
or
getting there.
Yeah,
They're starting.
They're
I
starting.
think what's so cool about anime and manga is I think there's no PC culture. Like you do whatever you want, and will do it. Like it.
Yeah.
Like you don't. There's no like there are no boundaries. I feel.
Well, there are, but it's
Well,
easy to cross them in hentai. That's for sure.
Yeah.
To give it back a historical significance, because I'm that guy. The the same reason you find crazy things in hentai is the same reasons why I think you would find people today listening to metal music, where the metal music's like kill your family, kill everyone you love, and just like this crazy bombastic thing.
I don't know what kind of metal music you listen to.
Well, it's the there's a word that starts with the letter V that I'm forgetting now.
Violence.
No.
Like Japanese people are more repressed, so it came out in the form of animation and manga and crazy stories.
Exactly. It's through this medium they get out this feeling, emotion, or whatever it is.
It's vicarious.
Vicarious.
Yes. Yes.
That was the V word I was looking for.
Yeah, my English degree paid off.
Yeah. So that's hentai or anime or in general, that's the case. And same thing for us in the West. Metal music that's just like, what the fuck are you listening to? Well, you're not listening to it because you want to kill your family. You're just doing it because you want to get that rage out of you.
True that.
This has become a very historical podcast.
I'm learning things about you I didn't know before.
Oh yeah.
I have more than one brain cell, okay?
So much rage.
So much rage.
Well, as you guys mentioned before, this is the second season of the podcast. Not of the podcast. The second season, the second year of Otaku comedy show.
Yeah.
And it's grown in popularity. And I would like to know, what's the business side of things? What does it entail? Like, if someone else has an original, idea and they want to make an event out of it, they want to make some money out of it. Like, what are the partnerships? What are the people like?
We have to mention
and you're at like
Palais des
Congrès. That's like a big event. Like, so how do you like? Do you plan it like a few months in advance? Like, is it pre-planned? Like.
Yeah, so we just have to this is a great time to start to give a shout out to the Otaku Manga Lounge.
Okay. Emily, Max, just them. Kevin, 12.
Okay.
Avec.
Are they a store or?
Yeah, so they're a manga lounge that sells manga and bubble tea and all kinds of other stuff. Okay. And when we were first starting our show, we were looking for a venue that really tapped into the culture that we're a part of, right? Because there's a growing anime subculture in Montreal.
True.
And there used to be a lot of manga cafes, like where they sell bubble tea and you could read manga and stuff, but a lot of them closed down. And turns out that the Otaku Manga Lounge is the only one that's left.
Okay.
So we
so sorry to cut you off. It was like because we were looking to change location, because when we first started, we were doing it at an apartment. It was like this loft type comedy show.
It was a nice place.
It was a nice place, but it was kind of hidden.
Yeah.
And we felt that exposure wasn't really helping us.
Exactly. Yeah.
So then when we approached the lounge, and they were like thrilled to have us, and they've been nothing more than accommodating. They've been super friendly, and it was by far the best decision we've ever done, because they had a window into this community as well. So then we work with them for our shows, and then, like I said, they have people, and then we bring people, and then it's always this nice show, and that really was the best decision we probably made.
When it comes to organizing events and stuff like that, though, it's really about making connections with the community. So
like the people that would come to your show?
Yeah, but it's not just the audience, like people that are important members of the anime community.
Okay.
Like for example, we reached out to the Concordia Anime Club, which were the founders of the Otakuthon.
What? Wow.
Yeah, the real OG Otakuthon guys. So we reached out to them. They were like, "Hey, we're like, guys, by the way, we're the Otaku Comedy Show. We do anime shows. We heard that you like doing stand-up events. If you want, we can."
Yeah, they were doing regular stand-up shows. They were going to the night, the clubs in the city to see stand-up as part of their semester events type thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then eventually we said, hey, we have a show that's literally catered to you.
So come here.
You wanna do a show? Would it be our show? And then in February we did a show for Concordia. We went to Concordia.
Yeah.
Shout out to Sean. I saw him yesterday. Actually, he's
Sean's
a great
awesome,
guy. He's the president of the club.
Okay.
Which I'm not sure if he still is. Anyways, I digress.
I hope so.
I think he's graduated. Anyways.
Oh, okay, then I hope not.
And we did a show for them, which was great. And he actually brought also more alumni from the club to the show.
Yeah.
so as you were saying, who you meet is very important, whether it be to produce other shows or to bring people to our shows.
Yeah, and so our first spot at Otakuthon was kind of a stroke of luck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because at that point we were still performing in the apartment, right? We didn't know, like, we were still kind of getting our
Groove on.
like growing in the beard, as they
Okay.
say in TV. But like I already had that part covered. But anyway, so we were doing a lot of Facebook marketing. We were posting up some posters. We really got a lot of attention with that.
Yeah, we had a really nice graphic designer.
Yeah.
who
So
helped out.
so like graphic designer, like having visuals is very important when you're developing something.
Yeah.
And Facebook ads work. They
Yes,
do work.
exactly. So I remember.
To an extent.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Or like face to face, going to specific events where you have people that would be in your audience. Like, is that?
So they're both important, for sure. Depending on who you see, they will bring you. People like to feel they're invited, but if it's also something that is like unique and special, then they will go out of their way to do it.
Oh yeah.
So some posters, if it's like we could tell which shows have done better based on the poster too.
Really?
And my glasses are fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
Posters are really good. Okay.
Yeah, it does make a difference. So at the beginning, we really tried to make an impact, right? We wanted to give something that was like flashy, like pow, and our logo really helped with that too.
Yeah, I love your logo.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Ah, you're making me blush.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So,
Huh?
You're making me blush.
so and then we got a message from the Otakuthon guys, and they were like, so we heard about you guys. Would you like to do a spot at our show at our convention? And we're like, hell yes, that's exactly what we wanted to do from the beginning.
Yeah, actually, it was funny because we were looking into. So how the convention works is that there's like a dealer's area where if you want to sell merchandise, you could sell merchandise in this area. And then there are panels, which is like the community comes up with an idea. So let's say they're like, oh, let's talk about the series One Piece, and let's have a One Piece panel. So then three people who are quote unquote professionals in One Piece talk about One Piece, and the audience is, you could interact with the audience. And then you have events, and then special guests. But in actual events, you have a bigger room, and we were thinking of applying for a panel because we're like, you have to be approached for an event. And as the week that we were like just hovering over the panel website, like, what do we need? What is the category? And we're just like confused as to what to do. They messaged us and we're like, yeah, we want to give you a special events room. And we're like, wow, this is amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was it a lot of grinding in the beginning, like to get to that point where people like recognize you and say, hey, we want to invite you to do stuff? Like, did you had to go out of the box, go a lot of knocking on doors on different places, or
I feel
was
like
it
we're
just
still doing that.
Yeah,
Yeah?
it's a process,
Yeah.
And when we first started, we were really adamant about like making posters, spreading them everywhere. We had little flyers that we would hand out as well. We also started making pins to give away at shows. We're going to be giving away some free pins at the Otakuthon. So if you decide to show up,
August 16,
free pins.
16 and 17.
Yeah.
So we're doing that. A lot of word of mouth.
Okay.
We started off with friends and family, people that would be interested, and that's how initially we got a lot of support. But then once our Facebook started getting some traction, we also have a Twitter and Instagram.
Okay.
I personally think it's less the social media traction, more the lounge, to be honest.
Yeah, they definitely help.
Like coming to the lounge,
Yeah,
like it was every other week that you were.
So
having?
originally we started monthly, and then we realized it was a little bit hard for us because a niche show is in a way nice when it's something you can't do often in a way.
Okay, and so you have like your crowd is coming back every time, like it's the same people.
Yes and no.
Okay.
So of course there's some people we see on and off or regularly, and then because at this point in time I feel like they're our friends. And then of course we always get new people, and our shows always have a different theme. So I feel even the theme will bring in new people.
Okay.
Originally it was monthly, and then and that's when our friends were coming, and then we're like, no, let's make it bi-monthly, and then we partnered up with the Manga Lounge, and then they were really an injection to our comedy show and for exposure. And so then when people started realizing, oh, there's comedy, there's anime, I love to laugh, let's come out. And then it's a matter of like getting them to come out, because one of our biggest challenges for the show is the fact that, well, otakus and people who like anime want to just sit and watch anime. So sometimes it is a struggle to
They
be
just
like,
wanna
we will make you laugh. Come to the show.
Yeah, so like our audience is the type of people that don't necessarily go to comedy clubs.
shows. Okay.
Yeah, comedy shows, right? Because it's not really like in that. It's like not really in their interest. But by giving them a place like the Manga Lounge where they can see stuff that's familiar.
Yeah.
And we're talking about things that they're familiar with. It gives them more reason to. Oh, thank you.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just
gives them
It's hot here. It's hot.
Oh yeah.
It's a hot day in
Sorry.
Montreal.
It gives them more reason to come to our show. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, speaking of your otaku comedy show like Facebook account, it says that this is the description, word for word. Are you a fan of anime, manga, comedy books, video games, or nerdy things in general? Need a break from school or work? Then come watch the Otaku Comedy Show, the new comedy show by Montreal comedians whose virginity level is over 9,000. So my question is, are you virgins level 9,000? What does that mean?
So
Andrew, you're the specialist.
Yeah,
here.
I mean, it's
specialist here.
written on the
Yeah, hi.
website. Everything sounds good. I'm just like the last part. I'm like, what? Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
that's actually my favorite part. So we like to joke around that we're virgins, and I kind of like to keep the mystery.
Ooh, okay, so we will never know.
You'll never know.
Okay.
We may or may not have girlfriends, but we still may or may not have had sex with them.
Okay.
Madoka doesn't count.
Okay, that's another story. And so the over 9,000 thing is a meme.
Okay.
So for all those who've watched Dragon Ball growing up,
Yeah.
there's a scene where Vegeta grabs his scouter after seeing young Gohan's power level go over 9,000 and over dramatizes, crushes the scouter, says it's over 9,000.
What, 9,000?
Yeah, and then
It's like unimaginable. Like
it was a great overreaction.
Yeah.
And then for some reason that became a meme, and everyone, whatever the situation is, to exaggerate said situation, they'll say, "Oh, this situation is so dumb. Its power level is over 9,000." And so I took it, and I'm like, we took it, and we're just like, our virginity level is over 9,000.
But you guys talk about nerds as well. Like, do you think that's still part of the culture? Because I feel like with cosplay now and video games, it's becoming sexier, it's becoming young, it's becoming hip, it's becoming cool. Like, people, you don't need to be like a nerdy guy living in your mom's basement anymore to enjoy anime and manga. Like,
Right.
I was enjoying anime and manga when I was like a teenager, and I'm like a black Haitian girl, so like, and I don't consider myself a nerd.
It definitely has become more mainstream.
Oh,
yeah.
And nowadays I feel like the word nerd has kind of like empowering, it's an empowerment word where it's like, oh well, yeah, I'm a nerd, I play video games, I do this. I don't think like in the past, if someone, like when I was a kid and someone said, oh, you're a nerd, I'm like, oh, that's hurtful. Whereas now it's like, you're a nerd, I'm like, hell yeah, I am. What kind of,
It's cool.
yeah, well, how could you have you not noticed me? Was Captain Obvious here?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well, how does your crowd look like? Like, is it like all one setting, all guys and like a few people in cosplay? Like,
Well,
recently, oh, sorry.
yeah. So I was gonna say, like, at first we expected it to be mostly the kind of people who, like, the typical people you would expect, but it turns out that there's quite a variety of people that are interested in anime. So we get a lot of women, surprisingly. We get a young and old crowd. It's just there's something for everybody. Like I said before, it's
Well, our crowd is more on the young side. It's,
Yeah.
young male side.
I do think, it's slightly more male-oriented than female. But with that being said, as the genre is becoming more diverse, more women are coming into it, so to speak. And recently, we've started advertising more for cosplaying. We've always had the cosplayers if a cosplayer comes to our show, it's 50% off. But
really?
yeah.
So if you show, even at the Otaku comedy show?
So we have a bi-monthly show that's called the Otaku Comedy Show.
Okay.
And if you come in cosplay, it is 50% off. And recently
Okay.
we've had a lot of cosplayers come, and we're really happy for that, because in the beginning we went like 6 to 7 months and not a single cosplayer.
Yeah.
We're like, it's 50% off, just go in a costume. And now we're finally starting to, where like I think 1/5 of the crowd is in cosplay, which is really nice.
Yeah, we're trying to tap into the cosplay community, which is another subculture of the anime community.
Yeah, we're starting that now.
And it makes people more involved. It's more than just a night out to go to a comedy show.
Yeah,
You're
exactly.
like all dressed, and then people in the audience that are not dressed, they, start up a conversation, and it's more like a community type thing.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
Yeah, people get to know each other and maybe know like
different. At the convention, so we sell tickets with either Eventbrite or in person or something like that for our own show. Now for the convention, the show's quote unquote free. You just need a pass for the convention, and there is a cosplay competition at the convention. So there's cosplayers, much more cosplayers at the Otakuthon than Comic-Con.
Okay.
And
That's
so
true. I noticed that too.
Yeah, and actually I learned because there's this competition. That's the reason why. And so when we perform at the Otakuthon, we love seeing the vast majority of the crowd feels like cosplayers. We're like, wow, this is really interesting. The different colors that we can see in the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, also talking about Otakuthon, and then your show is called Otaku Comedy Show, but it's not the same thing, right? Like,
No.
So what does the word otaku mean? Like, do you know the?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah. Well, what am I? Of course you know. You know history. You know everything.
Yeah.
You know the dates and people.
I said, a nerd.
Yeah. So where does otaku come
so
from? Like,
I think it was.
for our audience that doesn't know.
I think the inspiration for the Otaku Comedy Show, our name was from the Otakuthon. And then we're like, okay, well, we are otakus, or rather weebs. You wanna? I could explain it if you.
Yeah, okay. So I'll take this one. So
Okay.
Otakuthon, yes, was our inspiration for it, right? But otaku is kind of like a nerd. It has the same kind of connotation or implication.
That's what it means in Japanese.
More or less, it's kind of like.
You want me to do the taco joke?
Go for it. Yeah, he has a little bit about this. It's actually pretty funny.
So I have a joke that, so for those who are coming to the actual show for the convention, you're going to hear me say this. An otaku is someone who's obsessed with Japanese pop culture.
Okay.
And it could be seen as someone who's like, well, if you're too obsessed over something, it could be considered something bad. But overall, it's just someone who's obsessed with Japanese pop culture.
Okay.
Now, with that being said, weeaboo, or for short, a weeb, is someone usually in the West who wants to be an otaku, like a wannabe otaku. So the way I like to phrase it is, I think an otaku is like a nice nice Mexican taco. That's an otaku. Whereas a weeb is like Tex-Mex.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I get it. So I have a quick fire game here, like it's
Sure.
just to get to know you guys a bit more,
I love
quickly.
games.
Yes, it's called This or That. Just made it for this show.
Okay.
Just for you guys, special for you.
Awesome.
So I would like to know which is best, manga or anime?
There's only one answer. You know this.
I mean,
It's quick, man. It's quick. There's no thinking.
Manga.
Let's go.
Okay, manga, yeah.
Come on.
It came out.
Why did you
It came
hesitate?
out.
It's obviously manga.
anime
Okay.
is so beautiful, though.
Doesn't matter.
Music and-
So manga is like the written, the comic book kind of version of anime. Yeah.
There's nuance for sure, and I understand why you hesitated. But I feel like the best anime was originally a manga, and just the art form of a manga is, I prefer it. It's
Yeah.
Next level.
pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it too. But I mean, I do like the fight scenes, the music, the colors
For
from
sure,
the
for
anime,
sure.
but sometimes it's a bit too drawn out,
Mhm.
Manga is like straight to the point.
And-
Anyways,
yeah.
all right. So when it comes to anime, dub or sub?
That's
So-
easy.
So like dubbed, what I mean by that is that manga is still. I think there's some manga that is made here now, like anime that is made here now, but I think no,
It
it
goes-
has to be made in Japan.
It goes back to the cartoon thing. Like nowadays, cartoons here are becoming more and more
Yeah.
diverse and
Like-
new animation styles and
Yeah.
risky things.
Yeah.
Anime is just related to the animation from Japan.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that
Okay.
like Avatar: The Last Airbender
Yeah,
is a
that's it.
great series, but it's technically not anime,
Anime,
despite
it
having
was-
like a
it was
anime-like
made in-
style.
It would be a cartoon by all purposes.
American.
Right.
Okay. Well, anime from Japan, like when people want to consume it here, like sometimes it doesn't get dubbed in English fast enough. and I don't even know if it ever gets dubbed in French. But so it's a lot of people
Usually French first.
Yeah, so a lot
actually.
of people like me, we grow up like listening to Japanese and reading English, and some
Yeah.
people even learn Japanese that way.
Yeah.
But so yeah, what's your preference? Do you like Dragon Ball in English, or do you like have
Oh, that's a
the dub
tricky
like
one.
any anime?
I feel like the general rule is sub is better than dub,
Yeah.
It depends on the anime.
but it depends on the anime. Like
Yeah.
in the case of Dragon Ball, I actually prefer the dub because Goku.
What?
Yeah, because Goku's voice actress, and bless her heart, she's great, but her voice hadn't changed for Kid Goku versus Adult Goku. He
Okay.
stayed the same. Whereas in the dub, they're like, "Oh, he's not 14 anymore. How's
Yeah.
about we give him an adult voice?"
He's
Oh.
he's a big tough guy. so, like,
Exactly. He can lift the planet with a finger. Why is he talking like he doesn't have his balls yet?
I
God.
thought he found them before though.
Dragon Ball.
Yeah. How about you?
But
Dub or sub?
yeah, definitely sub. But there are some series that absolutely have to be watched with dub.
Okay.
For example, Golden Boy.
Okay.
Uh,
A recommendation for people who are audience who want to get into animation or anime, like
it's
Golden
kinda-
Boy.
It's it's a little.
I don't know. I've
It's a
never
bit
seen
of an obscure series, but it's
Okay.
one of those series where like the voice actors stopped giving a crap about like the actual content, so they decided to dub over it with their own little story, and
Okay.
the voice acting is superb.
Okay.
It's something you have to watch to really just experience.
Okay.
But in most cases, the sub is definitely the best option.
Yeah. Okay.
Mind
Yeah.
you, I feel like the dub brings better memes though.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not
When
sure.
you're watching it, you're not about the memes, man. You're about the like getting immersed in the.
Yeah, well, in this
And
day
the
and
vibe.
age, I feel it's like they go hand to hand.
Uh-huh.
Have you heard the "Don't Hurt Him, He's Black" from Dragon Ball
Oh
Super?
my god.
No.
Oh, it's the greatest meme ever.
Okay.
So the sub didn't have this problem, but in Dragon Ball Super, you have a villain whose name is also Goku, but he's wearing an all black attire,
Okay.
and they decided to name him Goku Black.
Okay.
So there's a scene where regular Goku shows up, and a whole bunch of people have armed guns, and they're about to shoot at him. And then Trunks stops. Another character named Trunks just jumps out, and he's like, "Don't shoot! He's not black." And then this was a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and then
they
the
didn't think about-
internet had a field day.
Yeah.
So
I
So
actually
you
saw,
you might be lost in translation for these things.
yeah,
A bit. Yeah.
I actually
okay.
attended a panel at Otakuthon last year or the year before where the voice actor.
it was actually Anime North.
Oh, it was Anime North, right? The guy who played, was it Piccolo? Oh, no, who was it that said it? It was.
It was the voice of Trunks.
It was Trunks, yeah. The guy who played the voice of Trunks talked about his experience with that, and it was hilarious. He's just like, I can't believe I had to read this line, but I had to do it, and
It wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
fault. And last one, hentai or Pornhub?
if you're, I'll take this one.
Oh, you
I
guys
believe in
can
you,
both
buddy. I
answer,
believe in
man.
you.
It's a valid question. You know, if people want to try something new, you know.
So there's hentai on Pornhub, but
Oh.
if you really want to watch hentai, don't go on Pornhub.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I grew up with more Western influence in that regard, so I tend to go to Pornhub, but hentai is pretty awesome too, so it's up to you, man.
Yeah. Try both.
It,
Try
like,
both.
it depends on what you're in the mood for, of course.
Yeah, try both.
You have your sites for everything.
Yeah.
But
If you want some tentacle, you know, freaky stuff, hentai.
Yeah.
right. If you want freaky, dark, push the boundary or plot-driven stories, I think
Plot.
hentai might be best for you. Yeah.
Well-
Plot quotes. Yeah.
So one last question. I would like to know, what is the one thing that people should know about your show? Like, what should people get hooked on? Like, when they go to your show, like, what have you noticed from your crowd that you see? Like, this is what they tell me. Like, this is always the good feedback that they tell me that is not like any other comedy show. It's not like just watching an anime on your TV or laptop. Like, this is like.
So
something
I spoke a bit about this before you were off air, that our show does best, and we kind of learned this as we went on, because we're stand-up comedians first.
Yeah.
So what we've learned is that if we make jokes very specific to a series, we end up losing the audience. That isn't to say that we can't do it, and certain exceptions, like Dragon Ball is such a big series that I might make reference. But with that being said, the punchline should exist outside the series, and we're always better off talking about the tropes. So if some people are afraid, being like, "Oh, but I've only watched like 5 animes.
Yeah.
Well, like, don't be afraid because the punchlines shouldn't be about this series, and we're talking about general tropes and things that are wacky and silly that as comedians we're breaking apart.
Could you give us examples? Like, what do you mean by tropes?
Well, we have our otaku comedy show that's bi-monthly has themes, and usually the theme is a trope. So like bad dads in anime. Like for some reason we've noticed that so many series have like fathers who are missing. Like Goku, he is a 4-year-old kid and just like says, "Okay, I'm gonna leave you with my arch nemesis," and leaves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he turns out to be a good dad.
He turned out to be the better dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that's a reoccurring thing, or just missing father figures,
Okay.
or like over exaggerations, or there's so many. I could talk about this all day.
Okay.
We had a show called Going Back to School, right? So we made it themed on
School anime.
school anime, and it just so happens to be so many out there.
Oh yeah.
Right.
So don't be
Yeah.
afraid if you just started watching anime or hentai. It's okay. You can still go to the show. You'll still have a great time. Could you remind the audience where to find you, how to buy tickets, and like both shows, the bi-monthly show and the
Sure.
Otaku show?
So our regular show, which is the Otaku comedy show that happens at the Otaku Manga Lounge, we obviously have to discuss with the lounge as to when the date is, and then once we have a date confirmed, we post it on our social media. So Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We say it's the Otaku comedy show. You can find us. And when the event goes up, we usually include an Eventbrite
Okay.
thing, so you can buy your tickets. The Eventbrite guarantees your seat.
Okay. How do you spell otaku?
Otaku is Otaku.
Okay. You heard
Space.
that, people? Day and night audience conversations.
Yep.
Otaku.
KU.
Japanese style.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, usually that's when we have an event. We share the Eventbrite to reserve your seat. But if you want to come in person the day of, we also accept that. And of course, 50% off if you come in cosplay.
But not for the
So
Otakuthon.
For the Otakuthon, so the festival,
Mm-hmm.
we're performing for them, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if you are going to the Otakuthon, or like if this is a reason to go to the Otakuthon, it's a great festival in general. Cosplayers, there's so many nerdy things there.
Yeah.
And then we have a live event, or one of the special events. We have the first show on Friday, and there's a picture right here that gives me the time.
August 16th.
August 16th, which is at 8 to 9:30, and then we have a late night hentai show on Saturday from 10 to 11:30.
Okay, and now you should know what hentai means by now.
Right.
Okay, so choose your show wisely, right?
We can come to both.
Yeah, that'd be
One's
nice.
a PG-15-ish show. It's more general, and
Okay.
then one is very hardcore hentai, and I'm like way too excited for the hentai one. Like this is
Yeah.
it's a problem.
He's been preparing for months.
Yeah. Oh, there's just one
Years.
last thing. Any crazy stories about like your shows and people, anime nerds? Any like one standout show leave us on a blaze of glory?
Well, speaking of hentai, I think one of the
Yeah,
most
yeah.
memorable moments was when we had a whole group of people cosplay as the characters from Boku no Pico. That was probably the most shocking thing that I've ever seen at one of our shows. That was pretty funny.
Our show, we try to make our show as interactive as possible.
Okay.
So every show always has a different feel and vibe to it.
Okay.
Personally, yes, the hentai show that we did, we've only had one hentai show.
Okay.
And that one is definitely one to remember, where like we had cosplayers, we had people just screaming the most ludicrous things.
Okay.
I was asking people, what are your favorite hentais, your favorite tropes? And then one guy in the front row was just like, I've actually discovered hentai before I watched anime.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was just like, man, Naruto must have been really weird when you started that series. Like, when are they fucking already? I'm so confused.
Sasuke, Naruto.
Sasuke, yeah, because
Yeah.
they kissed episode 1, right? And he's like, okay, it's gonna get started, and never
No.
happens. So.
All right, cool. Well, again, thank you for joining us at Day and Night Conversations.
No, thank you for having us.
Yes,
Yeah, thank you very
yes, thank
much.
you for teaching us so much about the world of comedy, hentai, a lot of hentai more, a bit more hentai, manga, anime.
We're not a hentai show, guys. Just letting you
If it was up to me, it would be.
Oh, okay. So maybe they'll add some more of that in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for coming here, AC and Andrew guys, and here with Burgundy and Nancy. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.